Welcome back with a smiling face. Important note before starting, if you are a fan of audio stories, then our Patreon account is the best platform for you. Join us on Patreon for the best audiobooks ever. Denied by My Companion. Chapter 26-37. The Truth. Andrew POV. Under the influence of Logan's order, Sienna had to tell us everything. Every word she said to Emma, everything she did. I felt like I was standing there, watching. With every word that came out of her mouth, my urge to kill her grew. When she told us that she had told Emma that I think she is a burden, I lost it. You said. What? I growled through my teeth. Let me out, Andrew. Asher screamed in my head, clawing to get out. I am going to kill her. Asher growled. Not yet, Asher. I screamed at him. She has to tell us where Emma is first. I walked up to Sienna. She was struggling against Logan's order, and she was only making it more painful for herself. She was wincing in pain, and I was enjoying it. I keeled in front of her and got in her face. It took all my strength not to dip my fangs into her throat and rip it out. If she believed what you said, I will kill you so slowly you will be begging me to die. I said slowly. She winced, but a moment later I saw her smirk. If she believed me, it is your fault, she said. You were a terrible brother. She tried to tell you about me so many times. You never believed her and everything she said was true. I growled and went to grab her neck, but before I could, Drake pulled me back. Not yet, Andrew, he said, holding me back. I ran my hand through my hair. She was right. I was a terrible brother. I chose to believe Sienna over my own sister. I didn't want to believe that my friend, the person I grew up with, could do that. I always thought that Emma was jealous. Logan, Sienna, and I were always together. We were older than Emma was, and we had different interests and topics. And when Logan and I took over the pack, we became even closer and busier, always doing what the pack needed. Sienna was always there to support us, and she always understood everything. I just thought Emma wanted to spend more time with me and she was angry she couldn't. I just thought that Sienna being around all the time made her jealous. It made sense at the time. Now I see how wrong I was. And my mistake hurt my sister. My pup. Logan intensified the order and Sienna cried out. Continue talking, Logan growled. He hasn't said a word since Sienna started talking, but I saw he was on the edge. Asher told me Leon was completely unhinged. I had no idea how Logan managed to control him. Sienna continued talking. She told us how she told Emma that Logan hated her and how he would think she betrayed the pack by becoming a rogue. Logan started shaking, but he didn't lose it like I did. Once he did, Goddess help Sienna. He would rip her apart. And I would help him. She proceeded to tell us how that filthy rogue wolf stabbed a needle full of wolfsbane into Emma's neck and she fainted. After that rogue hit Sienna so she could sell her lie about Emma hitting her and running away. He took Emma away, and Sienna waited 3 hours before she tried to mind-link Logan. Where is Emma? Logan growled and increased the intensity of his order. I don't know. Sienna whimpered. What? I froze. She didn't know? Logan, Drake, and I exchanged worried glances. Sienna, don't make me torture you. Logan growled, turning back to her. Where is she? I swear I don't know, she cried out. Rogue said he would hide her well. He told me there was a cave well hidden on the north side of the forest. But I don't know where it is exactly. How were you two supposed to exchange information? Logan growled, clenching his fists. He said that he would come find me, she said. When? I asked. I don't know, she said. We didn't set a date on purpose. I thought it would be best to not know. If I was ever caught, like I am now, I didn't want to make it easy for you. She smirked, and the three of us lost it. We growled so loudly that the entire room shook. Sienna covered her ears and whimpered. How were we going to find her? That area was huge. How did a rogue get on my territory? Logan asked Sienna. Oh, please, she rolled her eyes. I know everything about patrols and shifts. It was easy to get him in here without them noticing. That's how I have been getting out of the territory as well. I had to find a wolf willing to help me. And Rolf was more than willing to after he saw Emma. Asher growled loudly. You are such a Sienna. Drake said. Why did you do all that? I asked. What has Emma ever done to you? She narrowed her eyes at me and growled. Are you kidding me? She said through her teeth. Little Miss Perfect had everything. The two of you always protected her and loved her. You never protected or loved me the way you did her. And after it turned out Logan wasn't my mate, my gut told me he would be hers. I thought I would be okay with that if you, Andrew, turned out to be my mate. You would finally love me more than her. But it turned out you were not my mate, Andrew. And when I found out that Logan and Emma really were mates, I lost it. She had to go. I realized that as long as she is in our lives, you will never love me like you are supposed to. Goddess. I had no idea what to say to her. She was completely insane. Logan was just staring at her, and I could tell he was as speechless as I was. I did it for us. Sienna said seriously. I did it for our love. I am better than her for you. You will see that now that she is out of our lives. You completely lost it. I whispered in disbelief. I am done listening to you. Logan growled. I am going to find her, and after I do, I will kill you. I won't do it now because I want you to see her coming home. Safe and protected. Then you will die. Logan walked to the door, and Drake and I started following him. Sienna growled. No. I am better than her. She will never come back. Never. She will die. We walked out of the room and Logan told the guard to chain Sienna to the chair. The guard quickly left to follow his alpha's order. After he came back, Logan locked the door and placed the key inside his pocket. Nobody comes in here but me. Logan ordered the guard. We quickly left the cellar and headed toward Logan's office to plan our search. Chapter 27 The Search. Logan POV. It had been 4 days since Emma went missing. We have been searching the area where Sienna said that the rogue took her. We found nothing. I was going insane. I haven't slept since she went missing. I was angry and irritable. My pack was leaving me alone, and the only time anyone spoke to me was when they had news about the search. I attacked one of my warriors the day after she went missing. It was an accident, of course. He was fine. A couple of broken ribs that healed quickly. But it was enough for everybody to keep their distance now. Everybody except Drake and Andrew. Andrew was annoyed as I was. He hadn't been sleeping as well. We were out there in the woods, searching, and we came home once a day only to eat something. Leon hadn't been talking to me at all. He was either growling or whining, but he refused to talk to me. I knew that he would love to stick his claws up my. He blamed me for Emma's disappearance, and I didn't think he would talk to me until I found her. We still haven't searched here, I think. Drake mumbled and pointed to a location on a map. Drake, Andrew, and I were in my office, looking at a map of the area and trying to figure out a location we still hadn't searched. This would be so much easier if we could catch just a whiff of her scent. Andrew growled. Sienna said he is dosing her with wolfsbane and he is probably using a masking spray on himself. Drake said. We won't be able to smell her. I know. Andrew sighed and ran his hand through his hair. I walked up to Drake and looked down at the location on a map he is pointing at. We searched that area yesterday. I frowned. He said and sat down. We have to find her. I narrowed my eyes at him. I was grateful he was helping us, but his worry for my mate was getting on my nerves. Why are you so worried about her? I snapped at him. She is mine. He looked up at me and frowned. Since when? The last time I checked, you rejected her. I clenched my fists and gritted my teeth together. I would kill him. Enough. Andrew interfered. Logan, we are lucky he is here. He helped a lot. Drake, you know well that rejection doesn't erase the bond. So, unless you want Logan to lose it, don't challenge his claim on her. Drake and I glared at each other. I knew that Andrew was right. Drake being here was really helpful. He had great ideas and he was the only one with a clear head. I am sorry, Logan. Drake sighed. Andrew is right. I am just protective of her. I don't know her well, but I can tell she is an amazing she-wolf. She grabbed my heart as soon as I met her. If she really is a white wolf, she will be Luna to all of us. And that means she will be my Luna as well. And I will protect her, always. She is amazing, isn't she? I wanted to tear myself apart. How did I not see that sooner? How could I ever think she was not strong enough? I am fool. I mumbled. Yes, you are. Drake said. You better hope she forgives you. She will. Andrew said quietly. She will forgive you and she will forgive me. If she doesn't, I don't know how I will continue on. She will forgive you, man. Drake told him. You are her brother. Andrew closed his eyes and leaned back on the chair he was sitting on. Would she ever forgive me? She could always choose someone else. She could reject me. She could accept Jake's proposal. Or Drake's. I was sure that he wasn't kidding when he said he would take her as his chosen mate. Just thinking about other men touching what was mine made my blood boil. I would do everything I could to make sure that she forgave me. She was mine. Over my dead body will another man ever have her? I will not let that happen. Loud knocking interrupted my thoughts. Come in. I growled. One of my warriors rushed inside. He was out of breath, and he was looking at me wide-eyed. What? I snapped at him. Alpha, Beta, Alpha Drake, he greeted us, breathing heavily. Our trackers spotted a rogue wolf in the forest while they were searching. They said he disappeared into the ground. They think there could be an underground hiding place. They are there, waiting for your orders, Alpha. Andrew and Drake bolted out of their seats. My heart started beating faster. Leon started pacing nervously. That had to be him. Where are they? Andrew growled. The warrior walked to the map and pointed at the location. We had been searching there for days and she was right under our feet. The three of us ran out of my office, my warrior following behind us. We shifted immediately and started running. We had quite a distance to cover, but at the pace we were running, we should get there in half the time normal wolves would take. As I was running, all I could think about was having her in my arms. It has been 5 days since I last saw her, last smelled her, last touched her. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed her. I needed to see her. I needed to touch her. I will rip that rogue apart for keeping her away from me. I will kill Sienna for taking her away from me. They will regret the day they decided to hurt her. After an hour of running, we arrived at the location. We shifted quickly and put on the shorts that my warriors handed us. Alpha, Beta, Alpha Drake, one of my warriors addressed us. Sam, I nodded. Show us where he disappeared. Sam walked further away, pointing at the forest floor. At the first glance, there was nothing. But when I looked closer, I saw a handle made of rope. It was well hidden. Leaves and branches were covering it, making it look like there was nothing there. I turned to look at Andrew. He was nervous, and I could tell that Asher wanted to take over. We go inside quietly. I said to everybody. Do not kill the rogue. I want him alive and taken to the dungeons. Andrew and I will take care of Emma. Nobody else touches her. Understood. I heard a bunch of yes Alpha before turning around and pulling on the rope handle. The door opened, revealing nothing but darkness. I ducked inside and let my eyes adjust to the darkness. Chapter 28 The Cave. Emma POV. I didn't know how long I had been here. I was constantly surrounded by darkness. I woke up a few times only to be beaten. His fists came into contact with every part of my body. He told me that I deserved it because I almost took what belonged to Sienna. He was dosing me with wolfsbane, so I knew that I wasn't healing. If he didn't kill me soon, I would die from blood loss. I hoped that he would kill me soon. I didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't want him to touch me again. I kind of liked the darkness. He wasn't beating me when I was in the dark. He wasn't screaming at me when I was in the dark. His hands weren't touching me when I was in the dark. There wasn't physical pain when I was in the dark. But my thoughts were deafening. I couldn't stop thinking about my brother. I wished that I could tell him that I loved him just one more time. I wished that he would know I did not become a rogue. I wished that he wouldn't hate me. But at the same time, I was angry. He didn't believe me. He chose Sienna, just like Logan did. Andrew and Asher love us. Eliza whined. I was so glad that I could still talk to her. I shouldn't have been able to. The wolfsbane should have kept her locked deep in my mind. I didn't feel her, I didn't see her, but I could talk to her sometimes. She said it was because we were strong. She broke down the wolfsbane barrier when she felt that I needed her. I didn't know how. Maybe she was not even here. Maybe that was just my mind playing tricks on me, making it easier for me to lie here in the dark, waiting for death. I know they do. I said to Eliza. It just hurts, Eliza. Andrew didn't believe me. He chose her. He made a mistake. She said. We all make mistakes. We do. I sighed. And I will forgive him. I am just sad he will never know what really happened. You need to stay strong, Emma. Eliza whined. They will come for us. They think I ran away and became a rogue. I growled. They are not looking for me. And even if they are looking for me to kill me for betraying my pack and attacking a future Luna. Asher and Leon won't believe Sienna. Eliza said sternly. They hate her. They will talk some sense into Andrew and Logan. I closed my eyes and I felt a tear rolling down my face. I wished that I could believe that. I wished that were true. I wished that Eliza could live on. She didn't deserve this. I am sorry, Eliza, I said with a teary voice. Why are you apologizing? She whined. You don't have to apologize for anything. I do. I said. You don't deserve this. You should live on, not die here with me. Your mate shouldn't have rejected you. You should have a better, stronger human counterpart. Not me. I have caused you nothing but pain. I am sorry. I love you, Eliza. Stop it. She growled. We are not dying here. You are the only human I want. You are the strongest human. Just hold on a little bit longer. We will get out of here. I didn't respond. I just kept staring into the darkness. I can't hold on much longer, Emma. She whined. Be strong. I love you. I felt her slipping away and a quiet sob escaped me. I was alone again. Maybe that was for the better. I was glad that she couldn't feel or see what he was doing to me. She didn't deserve that. Suddenly, I felt like I was being pulled away from the darkness. I was waking up again. Well, hello there, little wolf. I could hear the rogue's voice. Welcome back. I blinked a few times and looked around me. We were still in a cave. I was lying on a cold floor and my dried blood was all around me. The rogue was sitting opposite me, leaning on the wall. I looked at him and he was smirking. His beard was long and frizzy. His cold black eyes were staring at me. He was covered in dirt and he had that unique rogue smell. It has been 4 days, if you are wondering, he said. Your brother is not looking for you. They are preparing a Luna ceremony. That means Sienna will be marked soon and I will finally have you for myself before I kill you. I felt tears falling down my face and into my hair. They weren't looking for me. They believed her. They thought that I became a rogue. Andrew hated me. My heart was breaking. A quiet sob escaped me. I didn't know why it hurt so much. I already knew this. I already knew that they chose Sienna. I already knew that my brother hated me. Why did it hurt so much? Don't cry, little wolf, the rogue laughed. It will be over soon. A few more days and you won't be a burden anymore. Not to your brother, not to your mate, and not to Sienna. His words were like a knife stabbing at my heart, but I knew he was right. I have been nothing but a burden. Andrew was finally free. Logan was free to mate with the one he wants. Soon I would be free too. I would see my mom and dad. I would be at peace. I closed my eyes and let the tears roll down my face. I heard the rogue getting up. He walked over to me and knelt beside me. I opened my eyes and saw a needle in his hand. You have been awake too long, little wolf, he said quietly. It is time to sleep again. I felt a needle pierce my skin and a burning feeling of wolf's bane spread through me. The rogue leaned in and took a deep breath. You smell amazing. I can't wait to make you mine. I felt his hand going under my hoodie. His claws cut my skin, and I felt blood rolling down my body. Darkness was close again. I couldn't wait for darkness. There was no pain there. Maybe Eliza would talk to me again. Before I was completely in the dark again, I heard blood-chilling growls. I tried to open my eyes to see who growled, but the darkness was stronger. Chapter 29 read. Andrew POV. I was walking behind Logan and Drake was right beside me. My eyes adjusted to the dark and I could see cave walls around us. The smell is awful. I can smell rogues, dirt, and blood. My whole body was shaking. I hadn't slept for days. I needed my sister beside me. I didn't know what I would do if she wasn't here. But I knew that I would never stop looking for her. I would find her. The further we walked, the stronger the smell of blood was. I could smell wolfsbane as well. It was burning my nose. I could hear whispers. There was definitely someone here. Your skin is so soft. I heard a voice say. Maybe I could keep you. I could lie and tell Sienna I killed you, but have you all to myself. As soon as we heard that's name, Logan, Drake, and I started running, and seconds later we came to an opening. There was a fire burning in one corner, and the space had that soft orange glow. What I saw there had me seeing red. Logan and I growled loudly. The sound was bouncing off of cave walls, making our growls even louder. There was a small body lying on the floor, surrounded by dried and fresh blood. Emma. Rolf was leaning over her, his hand was under her shirt, and his eyes were fixed on us. Before he could blink, Logan and I ran into him, throwing him off of her. Drake grabbed him and pinned him against the wall. I knew that my warriors were behind us, but I couldn't hear anything except our growls and our fists hitting that. I saw red and I wanted to kill him. The expression on Logan's face was terrifying. I had never seen him this angry. I was hitting him and I didn't ever want to stop. He touched my sister. He took my sister away from me. I would make him pay. I would make him suffer. Alpha, Beta. I heard someone calling me with a trembling voice. I stopped hitting and turned around. I was met with the worried eyes of one of our warriors. He was telling me something, but I couldn't focus. I could only hear the blood pumping inside my veins. I looked behind the warrior and I saw Jacob keeling beside Emma, holding her face in his hands. Tears were rolling down his cheeks, and he was telling her something. I was pulled out of my trance and I ran to her. Emma! I yelled and pulled her to me. She was beaten. Her skin was pale and she was so cold. Her eyes were closed and she was not answering me. Her blood was running from her belly and her hoodie was soaked. Why wasn't she answering me? Andrew, she is barely breathing. I heard Jacob's trembling voice. I looked up at him and he reached for her. I pulled her closer to me. He wasn't taking her away. She is barely breathing and her pulse is weak, Andrew. Jacob yelled. We need to move her, now. Drake came to stand beside Andrew. He gasped when he saw the state she was in. My whole body was shaking. I looked down at her and noticed that her chest was barely moving. She was dying. She was dying in my arms. No. I took her in my arms and stood up. I started running outside, but Logan pulled me back. Give her to me, he growled loudly. His chest was rising and falling rapidly. His hands were reaching for her and his eyes were fixed on me. I didn't want to give her to him, but I knew that Leon would kill me if I didn't. Logan was more like a wolf than a man right now, and he was dangerous. Another man was touching his mate. A mate he hadn't seen or felt for 4 days. A mate that was dying. It didn't matter that I was her brother. Leon didn't care. And I knew that the mate bond would help her heal. The mate bond might be the only way she could stay alive until we got her to the pack hospital. I placed her in his arms and he pulled her close, breathing in her scent. I saw a tear rolling down his cheek. Don't leave me, love, he whispered as he started running with her. Please don't leave me. I turned around and saw our warriors cuffing Rolf with silver chains. He was beaten and covered in blood, but the bastard was still breathing. Not for long, though. Take him to the cellars. I ordered. Dose him with wolfsbane. I don't want him to heal. I will stay and deal with him. Drake said. I will meet you at the pack hospital. I nodded to him, turned around, and ran outside. Logan had already shifted and our warriors were securing Emma on his back. He would get to the pack hospital faster if he was in his wolf form. I shifted quickly and I started running beside Logan. I kept glancing at Emma, making sure that she didn't fall off Leon's back. I didn't think we could run faster than we did when we were running to find her, but somehow we managed to arrive at the pack hospital in less than 45 minutes. Emma was still barely breathing when we arrived. Her pulse was even weaker. I was sure that the only reason she wasn't dead was the mate bond. Dr. Adams came running toward us. He gasped when he saw the state Emma was in. "Oh, my goddess, Emma," he yelled and pulled her from Leon's back. Leon started growling, but the doctor ignored him. He took Emma in his arms and ran inside. A nurse came and handed each of us a pair of shorts. Logan and I shifted, got dressed, and ran inside. Emma was lying on a bed. Dr. Adams was cutting her hoodie with a pair of scissors. He was giving orders to the nurses that I couldn't even hear. I could only focus on her pale face. Her pink lips were now white, her eyes were shut tightly. I needed her to open them. I needed to see how blue they are. The nurse came to stand in front of us. She was speaking, but I couldn't hear her. "Beta Andrew," her voice finally broke through. "Beta Andrew, we need you and Alpha to wait outside," she said. "We will take good care of Emma. But it is hard to focus when Alpha is growling at us. The doctor needs to touch her." Logan was growling. I looked at him and he was shaking. He was on the verge of shifting. Deep, menacing growls were coming from him and he was staring at Dr. Adams. I grabbed his arm. "Logan, you need to calm down. He needs to touch her. He is helping her. Let's go outside." "I am staying," he growled at me. "Alpha, please," doctor said. "I need to focus, and it is hard to do that with your alpha aura in the room." "I won't hurt her." Logan growled, but he let me pull him outside to the waiting room. We sat down on the chairs, and I placed my head in my hands. She couldn't leave me. She couldn't die. What would I do without her? Chapter 30 Waiting. Logan POV. I was sitting in the waiting room, staring at a white wall. I don't think I have ever been in so much pain. I don't think I have ever been this angry. I wanted to kill. I could taste Rolf's and Sienna's blood on my tongue. They would suffer. When I saw Emma laying there, all beaten and covered in blood, with touching her, I felt a wave of anger like never before. Leon turned into a monster. He was no longer a wolf. He will rip Rolf and Sienna apart when I let him. "Logan," my mom's panicked voice pulled me from my thoughts. I stood up and hugged her. I needed it. I needed my mom to tell me that everything was going to be okay. "How is she?" Amy asked with a trembling voice, looking at Andrew. "I don't know," he sighed, leaning against the wall. "She was barely breathing when we found her." Amy sobbed, and my mom gasped loudly. "She will be okay," I said with a shaky voice. "She has to be okay. She will be." I heard a voice behind me say. "She is the strongest person I know." It was Jacob. As soon as I saw him, a wave of jealousy hit me like a train. What was he doing here? I narrowed my eyes at him and clenched my fists. He walked over to Amy and hugged her. She was sobbing into his chest. "It is okay, Amy," he said. "She will be okay. She is my strong girl." I saw red. "Your strong girl?" I growled loudly. "All due respect, Alpha, She is mine, he said calmly. You had your chance and you ruined it. I asked her to be my chosen mate and I hope she will say yes. I was shaking and I was on the verge of shifting. What was he talking about? He wasn't taking her away from me. She was mine. I growled loudly and lunged at him. I was stopped by two strong hands. Andrew held me back. Stop. Andrew growled. Jacob, leave. Beta Andrew, no. Jacob said. My mate is inside, and I am not leaving. I was growling and Leon was in full control now. I would shift and rip him into pieces if he didn't leave. Jacob, the mate bond between Logan and Emma is not broken. Andrew said, squeezing me tighter. Until Emma accepts you and you mark her, she is not your mate. She is Logan's. And if you continue, I will not be able to hold him back. You know how possessive wolves are over their mates. And Logan is an alpha. You are digging yourself a very deep grave by being here right now. I was taking deep breaths. I hadn't stopped growling. I am killing that. Leon screamed. He is not taking my mate. She is mine. Jacob, honey, I know you love her, my mom said and stood in front of Jacob. But you need to leave. Emma wouldn't want to hear you two fighting when she wakes up. Amy will let you know when you can come back and see her. He is not going anywhere near her. I yelled. Logan, he is her friend, my mom said and turned her head to give me a stern look. She will want to see him. You can't forbid them from seeing each other. Fine. Jacob said. I will leave. But I will come back. I growled, and he gave me an annoyed look. This pup had some balls. I was his alpha. I could kill him for looking at me like that. He hugged Amy and kissed her cheek. Link me when she wakes up, he said before walking out. Andrew let me go and I ran my hand through my hair. This pup has some balls. I growled. He loves her, Logan, my mom said, walking over to sit beside Andrew. She is his friend. I am happy she has somebody like him to protect her. He stood up to an alpha for her. He must really love her. I growled and narrowed my eyes at her, but before I could tell her what I thought about his love, the door to Emma's room flung open. The nurse came running out, her eyes roaming on all of us before she stopped on Andrew. Beta, we need your blood, she said loudly. Andrew jumped up and ran toward the room. The nurse ran behind him, but I stopped her. Wait! I yelled. What is going on? She lost a lot of blood, she said, turning to me. She couldn't heal from all the wolfsbane. I have to go back, Alpha. I nodded, and she ran back inside. I sat back down, leaned on the wall, and closed my eyes. There were no words to describe how I was feeling. I was afraid of losing her. I was angry. I was jealous. I needed my mate. I needed to feel her. I needed to breathe in her delicious scent. She was the only one who could calm me down right now. I felt somebody sit beside me. I opened my eyes and looked to my left. Everything will be okay, sweetie, my mom said and took my hand in hers. I don't know what I will do if she rejects me, Mom. I said quietly. She won't reject you, she said with confidence. You are her mate. She loves you. I haven't been a very good mate. I said. No, you haven't, she said seriously. But you will talk to her. You will apologize. You will do everything you can to win her back. And you will wait as long as you have to win back her trust. And most importantly, you will respect her decision. Even if she decides not to be with you. My heart was breaking just thinking about not having Emma. My blood boiled thinking about another man touching her. My mom was right. I had to do everything I could to win her back. She was mine. Chapter 31 Blood. Andrew POV. I walked out of the room and saw that Drake had come to the Pack hospital. How is she? Logan jumped up and walked over to me as soon as he saw me. They didn't let me see her. I said. They took my blood and told me to wait outside. Logan sighed and ran his hand through his hair. Where is Rolf? I asked Drake. In the cellars, he answered. We pumped him full of wolfsbane. Good. I growled. The door opened and the doctor walked outside. Everybody jumped up and ran toward him. Logan almost knocked him down. Alpha Logan, Beta Andrew, the doctor said and took a step back from Logan. How is she? Logan and I asked at the same time. We managed to stabilize her, the doctor said. She is still in critical condition. He pumped so much wolfsbane into her that I was really surprised to see her alive. She should be dead. Logan and I growled loudly. My heart was beating painfully. I was so close to losing her forever. My hands were shaking, and Asher was constantly whining. She lost a lot of blood, the doctor continued, ignoring our growls. He cut her deeply several times. He broke 2 of her ribs, and she has bruises all over her body. Due to having so much wolfsbane in her body, she couldn't heal, and she won't be able to for a while. We need to remove all the wolfsbane from her body in order for her to heal. I don't think she will wake up until we do. I didn't know what to say. My heart was breaking. This was my fault. She was in there because of me. Logan was shaking. His mom and Amy were crying silently. Drake had a look on his face. There is one more exam I would like to do, the doctor said when none of us spoke. We could wait for her to wake up and ask her about it, but I am afraid that we are risking a lot if we don't do it now and if we don't take the necessary steps. What exam? Logan asked. I need your permission, Beta Andrew, he said, looking at me. Of course. I said. What do you need to do? The doctor looked between Logan and me, suddenly nervous. A rape kit, he said quietly. I froze. My heart stopped beating and I couldn't breathe. I knew that there was a chance that he touched her. I just didn't want to think about it. Logan growled, and fur started growing on his arms. Drake ran toward him and pulled his hands behind his back. Calm down, Logan. Drake said. You can't shift here. Shouldn't Logan be able to feel if somebody other than him? Logan's mom asked, stopping before she finished her question. He never felt anything like that. He would have told me. He would have gone crazy if he felt he was doing something like that to her. He should, the doctor said, eyeing Logan nervously. But she had so much wolfsbane in her body that I am afraid he wouldn't feel even if he killed her. Oh, my goddess! He had to give her much more wolfsbane than I thought. Mates can feel if the other one is killed, even if they are across the world from them, even if they rejected each other. In some cases, even if they choose another mate. How was she alive? Do the exam, doctor. I said, growling. Where do I sign? Thank you, Beta, the doctor said. Nurse Rose will take you to the front desk so you can sign the paperwork. When will we know the results? Logan's mom asked. I will get one of the nurses to do the exam immediately, and I will let you know as soon as we get the results, the doctor said and walked back inside the room. I sighed and ran my hand through my hair. If that touched her, Logan growled loudly. Don't, man. Drake stopped him. Don't go there. The nurse came out and told me to follow her. She gave me a bunch of papers to sign and told me I could go back to the waiting room when I finished signing them. I walked back and sat beside Amy. Are you okay, Beta? She asked me with a trembling voice. It's Andrew, Amy. I told her, staring at the wall. And no, I am not okay. I won't be until she wakes up and tells me she forgives me. She will, Andrew. Amy said. She loves you so much. She is all I have. I said quietly. I can't lose her. Not only could I lose her to death, but I could also lose her because of my own stupidity. What if she woke up and told me she didn't want anything to do with me anymore? Asher was whining and growling inside my head. Just the thought of losing his sister was hurting him badly. I could feel that he was angry at me as well. He blamed me for this. And he should have blamed me. What are you thinking about? I got a link from Logan. Leon told me Asher is distraught. Not only could I lose her to death, Logan. I linked him back. I could lose her because I was a stupid man who didn't believe her. What if she wakes up and tells me she doesn't want anything to do with me? I know. He sighed. I am afraid of the same thing. But we are not losing her. Not to death, not to her rejecting us. We are not giving up. She is your sister and my mate. She will always be by our side. I wanted to respond, but the sound of the door opening interrupted me. We jumped up from our seats and saw the doctor walking toward us. I couldn't ask him. I couldn't speak the words. He didn't rape her, the doctor said. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Logan sighed and clenched his fists. Thank goddess. Logan's mom said and hugged Amy. When can we see her? Logan asked. Nurses are finishing up in her room, the doctor said. You can go inside in a few minutes. But only Alpha and Beta. We can't risk infection while she is in critical condition. We all nodded, and the doctor continued. I don't think I have to say this, but Alpha, the mate bond will help her heal, so I recommend you spend as much time with her as possible. Of course. Logan said. My mom can handle pack business until she wakes up. Luna Gloria nodded and smiled at her son. I can also help. Drake added. I am not going back to my pack until I know she will be okay. Thank you, Drake. Logan said. Beta Andrew, I recommend you spend as much time as possible with her, the doctor said. You are her brother, and your presence will help her. I wasn't planning on being anywhere else. I said. Good, the doctor nodded. Nurse Rose will come and get you so you can go in and see her. I sighed, and Luna Gloria gave me a hug. She will be okay, honey, she said. You just watch over her like you always do. Her words were like knives to my heart. I didn't watch over her when she needed me most. That's why she was fighting for her life. Chapter 32 In the Hospital. Logan POV. I started pacing around nervously. My gaze was at the door the whole time. I needed that nurse to come out and take me to my mate. I will take care of the pack, honey, my mom told me. I won't bother you unless it is an emergency. I nodded absent-mindedly. Nothing was important at this moment. I just wanted my mate in my arms. I just wanted Emma. The door finally opened, and Nurse Rose came out. Alpha, Beta, please follow me, she said and walked back inside. Andrew and I ran inside. I could hear my mom telling me to link them when she wakes up, but I didn't have time to answer. I rushed inside and headed straight to Emma's room. Alpha, wait, The nurse called me. I stopped and turned to look at her with a menacing growl erupting from my chest. Andrew was right next to me. He was as annoyed as I was. You need to shower first, the nurse said as she lowered her gaze. We can't risk an infection. Shower? Andrew asked. Yes, she nodded. The doctor didn't tell you. Andrew and I shook our heads. I am sorry, I didn't know, she said. You will need to shower, and I will give you scrubs to change into. If Emma catches an infection, it could kill her. I flinched at her words and glanced toward Emma's door. My hot-headed behavior almost killed her. No, Rose, I am sorry, I said and looked back at her. I shouldn't have growled at you. I am just on edge. Can you please lead us to the bathroom? Andrew asked as calmly as he could. It is okay, Alpha, I understand, she said with a small smile and turned around. Follow me. We started walking away from Emma's room, and my heart clenched painfully in my chest. I needed to see her. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself. I needed to shower first. I couldn't put her in danger. Rose led us to the bathroom and handed us dark blue scrubs and a pair of new sneakers to change into. Don't rush, she said. You need to make sure you are as clean as possible. The towels are already waiting for you. I will be right outside to take you to Emma when you finish up. Andrew and I nodded and rushed inside. I made sure to thoroughly clean every part of my body. My hands were shaking with the need for my mate, but I tried to ignore it. I needed to do this right. I couldn't put her in danger. Not again. After I finished showering, I put on the clothes Rose gave me and stepped out of the bathroom. Rose was sitting alone. Andrew was still in the bathroom. Alpha, Rose said. Should we wait for Beta, Andrew? I nodded and sat down beside her. A few minutes later, Andrew stepped outside, and I stood up immediately. Rose led us back to Emma's room. She grabbed the doorknob, but before twisting it, she turned around to look at us. Don't freak out when you see her, she said softly. She is pale and covered in scrapes and bruises. There are a lot of needles and tubes attached to her. There is a machine to help her breathe and one to track her heart and blood pressure. Due to the blood transfusion, she will probably smell different for a while. Her normal scent will come back soon. Andrew clenched his fists and nodded. I took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. I am telling you this so you can prepare your wolves, she added. They will be protective and will want to rip those things out of her because they will think it is hurting her. Control them. Also, the state she is in will be hard on both you and your wolf. So please do everything you can to remain in control. Andrew and I nodded, and she opened the door slowly. What I saw inside broke me. My Emma was lying in bed completely covered in bruises and cuts. There were different tubes attached to her small body. Her long, brown hair was sprawled all around her. She didn't smell like herself. She smelled like wolfsbane, medicine, and Andrew. Leon and I hated that. We hated another male's scent on our mate, even if it was her brother. I didn't even hear Rose leave the room. My attention was on Emma and Emma only. But I couldn't move. The sight of her in this state froze me completely. I did this. Andrew moved first. Oh, Emma, he said, his voice trembling. He walked over to her and carefully took her small hand in his. He caressed her cheek with his thumb and placed a small kiss on her forehead. I am so sorry, Em, he said, leaning his forehead on hers. His whole body was trembling, and I knew that it was hard for him not to shift. Asher wanted to see her and make sure she was okay. He was probably going crazy and whining right now, just like Leon. She is so cold, he said quietly. I forced my legs to work and walked to the other side of Emma's bed. I looked down at the love of my life and my breath got caught in my throat. She looked so fragile. I placed my hand on hers and felt addicting tingles spread through my body. Hi, baby. I said quietly and leaned closer to her. I am here. I will never leave you again. Please come back to me. I pulled up a chair and sat down next to her. I placed her hand in mine and rubbed small circles on her palm. I will kill them. Andrew growled. They will suffer. Yes. I nodded, not taking my eyes off of her. We will make them pay for what they did to her. The door opened and the doctor walked inside. Nurses will bring one more bed in here, he told us. Unfortunately, we can't fit more in the room, so one of you will have to sleep on the couch. Not a problem. Andrew said. As long as I can stay here with her, I will sleep on the floor. Dr. Adams gave him a small smile and walked over to the bed to check on Emma. He checked the monitors around her and wrote something down in her chart. She is a fighter, he smiled. She is. I said quietly, looking down at her. Talk to her, the doc said. She can probably hear you. Andrew and I looked up at him and nodded. He gave us a small smile and left the room. I looked back down at Emma and sighed. I just wanted her to open her eyes. I wanted to see them again. I needed to see them again. Chapter 33 The Fever. Andrew POV. She smells like you. Logan mumbled. She does. I smiled, running my fingers through her hair. I don't like it, he frowned. But I would have her smell like you forever if it meant she would live. She will. I said quietly. She is not dying. I caressed her cheek and kissed her hand. The doctor says you can hear us, Emma. I said. I need you to know how sorry I am. I didn't believe you, and you were telling me the truth. It is my fault this happened to you. I hope you can forgive me. You are all I have in this world and I don't know what I would do if you left me. I love you, Em. Please don't leave me. I never moved my gaze from her face. Oh, goddess, how I wished that she would open her eyes. But there was nothing. She was completely still. I placed her hand on my cheek, needing to feel her touch. I was a terrible mate. Logan sighed. I rejected you without giving you a chance. And I was wrong, Emma. I was so wrong. I can't begin to explain how sorry I am. I should have stopped her. I should have protected you. But I am not going anywhere, my love. I will not leave you again. You are mine and I hope you can forgive me. I hope you will let me be the mate you deserve. Logan closed his eyes and took a deep breath. I, Logan Carter, Alpha of the Crescent Moon Pack, accept you, Emma Parker of the Crescent Moon Pack as my mate and Luna. Logan said as he opened his eyes. The machine that was monitoring her heart beeped. Her heart rate increased slightly. She heard you. I mumbled quietly, staring at the monitor. A huge smile spread across Logan's face. You heard me, love. My gaze went back to Emma. Nothing on her face showed that she had heard him, but I knew that she did. Goddess, Emma. I said and leaned closer to her. You can hear us, can't you? Please come back. Fight. Don't leave us. We need you. We continued talking to her, telling her how sorry we were and begging her to come back to us. After a while, both of us were exhausted and ready for bed. We hadn't been sleeping or eating properly since Emma went missing. I hoped to sleep a little bit better now that she was here with me. The nurses brought dinner for us, and we went to sleep after we ate. Logan got the bed, and I slept on the couch. I woke up in the middle of the night. I looked around the room, confused. Why did I wake up? The room had a soft orange glow. It was coming from the bedside lamp next to Emma's bed. I looked at my sister and saw that nothing had changed. I slowly got up and walked over to her bed. I took her hand in mine and gasped. She was so hot. My hand immediately went to her forehead and I froze. "Nurse!" I shouted and ran toward the door. I heard Logan growling behind me. "What?" Nurse Rose came running into the room. "She is burning up," I said as soon as she walked inside. Logan jumped out of bed and took Emma's hand in his. He gasped loudly. "What is wrong with her?" he asked frantically. "I don't know, Alpha," the nurse said as she took her temperature. "Probably an infection." My heart started beating painfully. "An infection? 105," the nurse muttered to herself. "I will get the doctor," she said and ran out of the room. I ran toward Emma and took her hand in mine. Her cheeks were pink from the temperature and there were a few little beads of sweat on her forehead. I used my hand to wipe them away. Logan was kissing her hand and looking at her. I saw fear in his eyes. The doctor came running inside. "Alpha, Beta," he said. "Can you please move so I can examine her?" Logan and I growled, but moved out of the way. The doctor started examining her, checking her vitals and taking her temperature again. "What's wrong, Doc?" Logan asked, his voice trembling. He turned to look at us and sighed. "I don't know. An infection, probably. She has been lying on the dirty floor with open wounds. We will have to test her blood to know for sure. In the meantime, I will give her a broad-spectrum antibiotic. We have to get her fever to drop." Nurse Rose approached Emma to take her blood. As soon as she pierced the needle into Emma's skin, Logan growled. "We need to do this, Alpha," the doctor said. "I know." Logan sighed and ran his hand through his hair. "I am sorry." "It's okay," Nurse Rose said as she finished. "It is normal for mates to behave like this. I see it all the time." Logan gave her a small smile and she walked out of the room. "We will have the results by morning," Doc said and walked toward the door. "I will go get the medicine for her." Logan and I nodded and walked back to hold Emma's hands. The doctor came back quickly and gave Emma the medicine. "Try to get some sleep," he said as he walked out. "I will wake you up when we get the results." Logan and I nodded, not taking our eyes off of her. "You can sleep in the bed," Logan mumbled. I raised my eyebrows. "What about you?" "I am sleeping with her," he said and started moving wires and tubes away. I grabbed his hand, stopping him. "I don't think that is a good idea. What if you mess something up?" "I won't," he said. "I will be perfectly still and you will help me with the wires. I need to hold her. And the mate bond will help her heal." I sighed and let go of his hand. He was right. We carefully moved the tubes and wires attached to her so Logan could lay down beside her. He carefully climbed into bed beside her, and I sat on the other bed. "Wake me up if something happens," I said as I laid down. "MHM," he mumbled, nuzzling his nose into her neck. I sighed and looked away. I knew that being close to Logan would help her, but I didn't have to watch him touch my sister. Chapter 34: The Infection. Logan POV. I kept nuzzling my nose into her neck and hair, hoping to get just a little bit of her delicious scent. But there was nothing. She still smelled like wolfsbane, medicine, and Andrew. I sighed. I would have to wait. I ran my fingers through her long, silky hair and leaned my cheek on top of her head. I just wanted her to open her eyes. I wanted her to speak to me. I needed to hear her voice. I needed to tell her that I loved her. I kissed her forehead and closed my eyes. I was awoken when the doctor entered the room. "Good morning, Alpha," the doctor said, holding Emma's chart in his hands. "Morning, doctor." I yawned. "Are those the results?" "Yes," the doctor nodded and looked at Andrew. He was still asleep, so I carefully got off the bed and walked to him. I shook him and he opened his eyes. He jumped up immediately. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Where is Emma?" "Right here." I pointed at her. "She is okay. The doctor is here with her results." He looked at the doctor and sat up straighter. "Sorry, doctor. I haven't been sleeping well. This is the first night I managed to get some sleep." "I understand, Beta," the doctor said with a small smile. "No need to apologize." "What did the results say?" I asked and walked back to Emma. "We have confirmed it is an infection," the doctor said as he moved toward Emma to check her temperature. "We will continue the antibiotics." "Will she be okay?" Andrew asked and stood up. "I hope," the doctor sighed. "There is still woeful pain in her and it is keeping her from healing. It also lessens the effect of the antibiotics we are giving her, so we will have to increase the dosage." My heart started beating painfully. I wanted to ask him a question, but I was afraid of the answer. "Can she?" Andrew started speaking before taking a deep breath. "Can she die?" My breath got caught in my throat. The doctor raised his head and looked nervously at Andrew and me. "She can," he said quietly. Andrew and I growled loudly. "No. She wasn't dying. She couldn't die." Asher whined, and Andrew jumped off the bed and went to Emma. "No," he said sternly. "You are not dying, Emma. Do you hear me? You will not die. You will not leave me alone." "I will do everything I can," the doctor said quietly. I stood frozen. I kept staring at her beautiful face. I couldn't lose her. "Is there something we can do?" I asked the doctor, not moving my eyes from her. "Be with her," he said. "The bonds she has with you will help her." Andrew and I nodded, and the doctor turned to walk out of the room. Andrew stopped him. "Doctor, I want to shift." Andrew mumbled, caressing Emma's hair. "Asher wants to see her. Is it safe?" The doctor turned around and scratched his neck. "It should be okay. Just be careful and call me if anything happens." Andrew nodded, and the doctor gave him a small smile. He walked out of the room and closed the door. As soon as the doctor closed the door, Andrew stood up and walked over to the farthest corner of the room to shift. I sat next to Emma and took her hand in mine. "I am here, baby," I whispered to her. "You are going to be okay." I was interrupted by a whimper. I turned my head to look at Asher. He was standing in the corner of the room, his tail between his legs. He was staring at Emma and I swear I saw tears rolling down his furry face. "It's okay, Asher," I said quietly. "She is here, your pup is here." Asher walked over to her and licked her face gently. He placed his head on her belly and closed his eyes. He never stopped whining. I raised her other hand and placed it on Asher's head. He sent me a grateful look. I gave him a little smile and looked back at Emma. Her cheeks were slightly flushed because of the fever. Her eyes were shut tight. It was killing me. I just wanted to see her eyes. I wanted her to look at me. I wanted to tell her I was a stupid man, who couldn't have been more wrong. I wanted to tell her how much I loved her. I want to be with mate. Leon whined. Let me out, Logan. I will, Leon. I told him. Let Asher have some time with her. You know how much he missed her. Leon whined loudly, but stopped pressing me to shift. Okay. I will wait. But as soon as he shifts back, you are letting me out. I will. I promised him. I looked at Asher, who was still whining quietly. I felt so bad for Andrew and him. He was broken when she went missing. He loved her so much and often saw her as his child, rather than his sister. Which made sense. He wasn't that much older than her, but he did raise her. Even when his parents were still alive, Andrew was raising Emma. His parents were often absent and busy dealing with the pack. His father, being Beta, traveled a lot with mine, and his mother helped my mother around the pack house. Andrew had been taking care of Emma since she was a baby. Asher's big head suddenly shot up. He looked at Emma and let out a loud whine. What happened? I jumped up, looking from Asher to Emma. He jumped back to the corner of the room and shifted back. Andrew grabbed the scrubs off of the floor and put them back on. He ran back to the bed and stared at Emma. He grabbed her face in his hands and kissed her forehead. Emma, he called her. Emma, love, can you hear me? I am here. Your big brother is here. I stared at him, confused. Andrew, what is going on? She moved her hand. Logan, he mumbled, not taking his eyes away from her face. She squeezed my fur lightly. I gasped and my eyes snapped to her face. Please wake up, baby. Emma. Andrew called her again. Please, love, open your eyes. I held my breath and took her hand in mine. Sparks rushed over my skin and I held on tight. I would never let her go. Please, baby, wake up. I said quietly. Emma's eyes fluttered open. Andrew and I let out small sobs. She was awake. Thank you, goddess. Chapter 35 Awake? Andrew POV. Little one, look at me. I managed to say through my sobs. Her eyes found mine slowly and I felt tears fall on my cheeks. I wanted to see her eyes for so long. Hey, love. I said quietly. You are okay, you are safe. She was still confused and disoriented. She blinked a few times. She wasn't able to open her eyes fully. I turned to look at Logan. Get the doctor. He managed to peel his gaze off of Emma and ran to the door. He opened them and I heard him shouting for the doctor to come immediately. I looked back at Emma, who was looking at me confused through her half-opened eyes. I never let go of her face. You are at the hospital, little one. I told her slowly. You are safe. She can't hurt you anymore. Before I could say anything else, the doctor ran into the room. Beta, I need to check her, he told me. Please take a step back. I looked back down at her and reluctantly let her go. I stood next to Logan, not taking my eyes away from her. Logan was shaking slightly, his eyes never leaving her either. Emma, the doctor called her loudly. Emma, it is Dr. Wren. Can you hear me, honey? She didn't answer him. Her eyes started darting around the room, like she was searching for something or someone. Her breathing started to pick up, her chest falling up and down rapidly. I clenched my fists in fear and Logan growled. Emma, honey, the doctor tried again. It is okay. You are safe. You are in the pack hospital. She finally managed to look at him. Hey, Emma, he said softly. Do you know who I am? She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. It is okay, Emma Doc said. You can just nod for now, okay? She shook her head slightly and tried again. She was so quiet that I couldn't hear her even with my wolf hearing. Andrew, the doctor repeated what she had said. He is right there, Emma. My heart started beating faster. She was asking for me? I quickly ran back to her and took her hand in mine. Can you tell him I am not a rogue? I heard her say quietly. She was struggling to get the words out of her mouth. If I wasn't standing right next to her, I probably wouldn't have even heard her. I don't want him to hate me, she added. Logan gasped behind me. My heart clenched painfully. She thought that I hated her. She thought that I believed Sienna. I squeezed her hand tighter, hoping to get her attention. I wanted to speak, but the lump in my throat was too big. You can tell him that yourself, Emma, the doctor said gently. Look to your left, sweetie. Your brother is here. But she didn't. Her eyes closed again, her head falling to the side. The machines around her started beeping. Emma! Logan and I screamed. Logan moved and pushed past me, grabbing her face in his hands. Emma, baby, no, he screamed. Come back. I didn't even hear the doctor move. He was checking the monitors and screaming for the nurses to come into the room. I couldn't hear what he was saying. My eyes were on my sister. Her beautiful eyes were once again closed. The doctor's face came into my view. I could see him speaking to me, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. I knew it must be important, so I tried to focus and listen. Move so we can help her, I heard him say. I blinked and focused harder. Beta, he yelled. Beta, you need to move. You and Alpha need to move so we can work. I snapped out of my daze and grabbed Logan's shoulders. I started pulling him away and he started trashing against my hold. He was growling loudly, and canines flew out of his mouth. He turned around and dug his canines deep into my arm. I didn't even flinch. My focus was on Emma, and Emma only. Logan, they are helping her, I said firmly. You need to calm down. He was breathing heavily. My blood was dripping down his chin. His eyes were completely black and focused on Emma. I kept my arms firmly around his shoulders and watched them work. They were rushing around, looking at the machines, poking Emma with different needles. It felt like forever before the doctor finally turned to look at us. Logan's growls never quieted down. Her blood pressure dropped dangerously, the doctor said. We managed to stabilize it, but she needs to rest. She is not going to wake up for a while. I am surprised that she woke up when she did. There is still so much wolfsbane in her. I swallowed down a sob and nodded. Thank you, doctor. Please, Beta, call me Ren, he said with a small smile, walking toward the door. Call me if anything changes. I nodded and turned back to look at my sister. I still had my arms wrapped around Logan. He stopped growling, but his breathing still hadn't calmed down. He tapped my arms lightly, and I let him go. He walked over to Emma, taking her hand in his and placing a kiss on her forehead. Come back to me, baby, he mumbled, leaning his forehead on hers. I walked to the other side of her bed and sat down. I took her other hand in mine and started playing with her fingers. Logan looked at me and sighed. His eyes darted to my arm, and I saw him tense up. He mumbled. Did I do that? I nodded. Don't worry. It's healed already. Man. I am so sorry, he sighed, running his hand through his hair. It's okay, I said. I would probably do the same if you were holding me back. Logan looked back at Emma. She thinks we hate her. I nodded, swallowing a huge lump in my throat. Logan kissed her hand and placed it on his cheek, leaning into her touch. I came closer to her, moving a strand of her hair from her face. I already missed her eyes. I know you can hear me, love. I said to her. You are not a rogue. I don't hate you. I could never hate you. You are the most important thing in my world. You are my pup. I love you and I will be here when you open your eyes again. Chapter 36 In the Dark. Emma POV. This was the longest time I had spent in the dark. Or at least I thought it was. What did he do to me? Usually, I would wake up by now. I couldn't hear Eliza, but I did hear my brother and Logan talking to me. They were telling me things I really wanted to hear, but I knew it couldn't be true. I knew that I was dreaming. They weren't looking for me. They thought that I was a rogue and they moved on. Sienna was right. I was just a burden. They would finally be free when I die. I dreamt about Dr. Wren as well. I wondered why. I mean, I always liked him. We became good friends when I started volunteering at the hospital. But I really didn't understand why I'd dreamt of him. I remembered him talking to me, telling me something that I couldn't understand. I took the opportunity to tell him that I was not a rogue. I asked him to tell Andrew not to hate me. I was aware it was a dream, but it somehow made me feel better. I'd dreamt about Asher as well. Oh, goddess, how much I missed him. He was the best wolf there was. He was the best brother there was. I dreamed about touching his soft fur, and it was the most joyful dream I'd had in a long time. It hurt so much to know that Asher hated me. I just wished that I could tell him the truth. I wished that I could feel his body wrapped around mine just one more time. He always used to do that when I was cold. He would wrap himself around me to keep me warm. He would lick my face while I whined and protested. He would ignore my protests and grin at me playfully. I missed him a lot. I could hear Andrew's voice telling me that I was not a rogue. He told me that he would be next to me when I woke up. My mind was playing games with me. He won't be next to me. He was back home, planning a Luna ceremony for Sienna. When I woke up, Rolf would be with me. He would tell me how much my brother and my maid hated me. He would tell me that Sienna was a new Luna now. He would tell me that Logan marked her. He would finally be able to kill me. But why wasn't I waking up? I should have been awake by now, right? This time, the darkness was different. Was I dead already? But if I was, why couldn't I see my parents? Why couldn't I move? Was this what death was? Was I going to spend eternity in the dark? What did I do to deserve this? Was I such a horrible person? I felt my heart breaking into a million tiny pieces. I thought that I was crying, but I couldn't be sure. I couldn't feel my body. I couldn't move my arms or legs. I was trapped in the dark and I didn't think I would ever be able to leave. I would spend eternity here, thinking about all the things I'd done wrong. Like the time when I was 7 and hid in the tree house. Mom and Dad were away on a trip with Alpha and Luna. Andrew was 14 at the time, and Mom and Dad thought he was old enough to leave us alone for a couple of days. I thought it would be fun to hide from him. He was so angry when he finally found me. I guess that was one of the reasons why I was here. I guess I earned myself a place in this darkness by sneaking out of the house with Amy and Jacob. I would lie to Andrew. I would pretend to be asleep and then leave through my bedroom window to hang out with Amy and Jacob at our hidden cave. I was here for each and every time I was angry at Andrew. He gave his life away to raise me. I should have been more grateful. I should never have been angry at him because he didn't believe me about Sienna. Did rejected wolves came here? I wasn't a good enough mate. I wasn't a good enough wolf. This was my punishment for that. I couldn't give Logan what he needed. He had to throw away the goddess gift because of me. I was surely being punished for that. It was my fault that he had to do it. If I was stronger, he wouldn't have to reject me. I was being punished for rejecting Jake. I hurt his feelings and I deserved this. He wanted to take me as a chosen mate, and I refused. He was hurt because of me. I was being punished for each and every time I put myself first. There were times I couldn't volunteer at the hospital because I had a training session or I had to study for exams. I shouldn't have done that. I should have gone to the hospital and help. How could I forget all the horrible things I said about Sienna? I called her numerous times. I talked badly about her. I tried to ruin her relationship with my brother and Logan. I shouldn't have done that. I'd done a lot more things that I deserved to be punished for. I ate snacks before dinner, even though I knew it was forbidden. I faked being sick a couple of times so I wouldn't have to go to school. I tried alcohol at a party once. I drove Andrew's car without a permit once. I kissed Logan even though he had already chosen Sienna as his mate. The list just went on and on. The more I thought about it, the more tears fell from my eyes. Or at last that's what I thought. I still couldn't move or feel my body. I just felt like I was crying because my soul was being ripped to pieces. I was hoping to see my mom and dad once I died, but I guessed that would not happen. I had a lot to pay for, and I would be trapped in the dark forever. I would be alone here forever. If I could find my voice, I would sob and scream. But, like my body, my voice was gone too. Chapter 37 Wake Her Up. Logan POV. It had been a few hours since Emma woke up and fell back asleep again. I was sitting on a chair next to her bed, holding her hand in mine, letting the sparks and tingles soothe me. Andrew was asleep with his head on her belly. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't keep my eyes away from her face, hoping that she would open her eyes again. I memorized everything about her. I memorized how her lashes were so long that they touched her cheek slightly, how her lips were full and perfectly shaped, how her cheeks were tinted pink and soft. I just needed her to open her eyes so that I could memorize them as well. I wanted to know each and every color and fleck her eyes held. Not that I didn't know already, but I wanted to be reminded. I wanted to see it again. I was playing with her fingers and I must have zoned out because when I focused on her face again, there was something new, something that wasn't there before. Tears. My breath got caught in my throat and my heart tugged painfully in my chest. She was crying. My baby was crying. I moved so fast that the room was nothing but a blur. I held her face in my hands and wiped her tears away with my thumbs. Emma, baby, wake up, please. I told her, my voice trembling. My movements woke up Andrew. He lifted his head and looked at me, confused. She won't be waking up for a while, Logan, he mumbled. You heard what the doctor said. She is crying, Andrew. I said quietly, not moving my gaze from her face. I could feel Andrew tense up. He gasped, and he was up in a second. The tears were still falling down her cheeks faster than I could wipe them away. Whatever she was dreaming about was hurting her. Emma. Andrew called her. Wake up, please. I caressed her cheeks with my thumbs, sending pleasurable shivers down my body. Little one, please, Andrew spoke again. Wake up. I am here. I will never leave you. He was squeezing her hand a little too tightly. I was afraid that he was going to hurt her. I tried to remove his grasp on her hand, but he growled at me. If he wasn't my best friend, I would have killed him for growling at his alpha. You are hurting her, Andrew, I said angrily. He looked down and immediately let her hand go. He mumbled, taking her hand into his again. I am sorry, Em. I looked back at her. Her tears still haven't stopped. My heart tugged painfully, and Leon let out a loud whimper. Emma, baby, please wake up. I whined, placing a kiss on her forehead. You are dreaming, baby. I looked at Andrew. He was distraught. His eyes were wide and filled with unshed tears. He was kissing Emma's hand repeatedly. His eyes never left her face. Emma, please wake up. Andrew mumbled as he closed his eyes, placing her hand on his cheek. You are dreaming, little one. You are safe. Please wake up. I looked back at her and gasped. Her eyebrows were scrunched together. She shut her eyes even tighter before trying to open them. Emma! I yelled, grabbing her face. Andrew opened his eyes and gasped. Emma finally managed to open her eyes. She was looking at me confused. My heart was beating impossibly fast, and I sobbed loudly. Emma, baby, you are okay. I managed to say. You are safe, baby. I am here. Andrew is here. She moved her gaze from me to Andrew. She furrowed her eyebrows and blinked a few times. Little one. Andrew called her by his nickname for her as he moved my hands away from her face. I am here. You are safe. He cupped her cheeks and kissed the top of her head, breathing deeply. I heard the door open. Dr. Wren came inside. He was surprised when he saw Emma awake. He walked over to the bed and peeked over Andrew's shoulder. Beta, can you move, please? Wren asked. Andrew growled. I carefully pulled him back, grabbing his arms. Andrew, he will help her. I said as calmly as I could. I will let you back to her soon, okay? Andrew let me pull him away. Emma's eyes never left him. He was breathing heavily. When I was sure he wouldn't run back to her, I let go of his arms. Emma! Wren called her. She turned her head to look at him, her eyebrows furrowing. Hi, Emma. Wren smiled. Do you know who I am? Do you know where you are? She was looking at him, confused. Her eyes darted back to Andrew. Do you know who he is? Wren asked, looking at the machines around her. Emma nodded, not moving her gaze from Andrew. A quiet sob escaped him. Can you talk, Emma? Wren asked, looking back down at her. Do you want some water? She nodded again, not looking away from Andrew, who started shaking slightly. He was gulping constantly, and his fists were clenched. Wren picked up the glass, filled it with water, and slowly brought it up to Emma's lips. She moved her gaze away and looked down at the glass. Take small sips, okay? Wren instructed. She did what he said. When she finished drinking, she leaned her head back on the pillow. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Can you answer some questions for me, Emma? Wren asked her. She nodded and opened her eyes to look at him. Do you know who I am? Wren asked her, smiling. Yes, she said quietly. Dr. Wren. Her voice sent shivers down my spine. Goddess, how much I missed hearing her voice. Good, Emma, he smiled brightly. You are doing great. Do you know where you are? She furrowed her eyebrows and looked around the room. Her eyes stopped on Andrew and me. She shook her head. You are in the Pack Hospital, Emma. Ren said, looking at Andrew and me over his shoulder. I am not dead. Emma mumbled, looking back at Ren. Andrew and I growled loudly, making her snap her gaze back toward us. My heart was beating a mile a minute. Andrew was shaking uncontrollably. You are not dead, Emma. Ren said calmly, shifting her focus from us to him. You were asleep for a long time. I didn't expect you to wake up yet. She looked at the machines surrounding her. Ren smiled down at her, taking a seat on the chair next to her bed. I would tell you your vitals, but I know you can read them yourself by now, he smiled at her. She nodded and I was confused. What did he mean by that? How did she know how to read those machines? I looked at Andrew, wanting an explanation from him. I tried mind-linking him, but he was blocking everyone out. His sole focus was on Emma. Do you know what happened to you, Emma? Ren asked her carefully. Her eyes widened with fear, and I didn't need the machine to tell me that her heart rate picked up. I could hear it clearly. The rest of the audiobook will be continued in the next episode. Join us on Patreon for early access or more great audiobooks. A link is provided in the video description.